I mean, of course, we totally like, whoa, hey guys. So, as you can tell, I had webcam problems. All right, so let me fix that. Oh, OBS just refused to recognize my webcam this morning, and so otherwise we would have been early. And of course, OBS, being itself, has decided that this is a terrible thing, that I should never be able to be early at all, and why would I ever want to be early? OMG, right? So I am putting this behind everything now. They don't make that easier either. Let's see here. Behind everything. Everything! Everything is better than you, Logitech Cam. So give me a second, folks, while I fix technical issues. There we go. Probably doesn't need to be behind everything. But you know what? I think it kind of does. Yep. All right, there we go. Excellent. Boy, like, seriously? Such ridiculousness. Yeah, now I'm going to remove some of this other crap, and we will be good to go. Yeah, it didn't want them. My Logitech Cam did not want to wake up this morning. How about that? Image of betrayal with the 9-month sub. Yeah, remember guys, AMA and giveaway this week. I need to come up with some clever, awesome thing to give away. I'll have to think about it. What clever, awesome thing could I give away? I don't know. Maybe I'll like put something together. Maybe we'll do some monsters or something. I don't know. It's part of the conspiracy. Yeah. I never put much stock in conspiracy theories. GVD with the resub for 8 months. Are we going to count down? It's going to be 9 months, 8 months. Who's got a 7th month sub? Cold and Dark Caledonia. I kind of like those days, Korniko, because then they're great days for writing and painting. They're good days for curling up and doing creative stuff when it's like awful outside. I do like that about winter sometimes. So yeah, awesome. I'm gonna go to Cam, the Sphinx, the Sphinx. I actually had started mixing everything up. Even this is how I doomed myself to have my webcam go out. I was all too prepared, and so yeah. There we go. So I can go over my mixes anyway, since I didn't quite finish mixing them all. As you recall, with the wings, I recommended that everybody start with a lighter color. So we actually started with this mix that I was just putting together up here. Hey, Gerard Monster. Hey, Dragon Eye. Let me grab a brush. So I started with this, and this is 4 drops, and luckily, guys, as I always tell you, I did keep my sticky note with all of my mixes, all of my ratios, all my everythings, because now I can recreate these colors on the wing. So this is 4 drops of rich leather. Much of this entire wing color is built off of 9429 rich leather. You can see the color, you can see it in all of these colors. They're all mixes of this with other stuff. So rich leather plus a drop of polished leather and 2 drops of white for our base coat color. So I'm going to drop some water into that. Boop, boop. And mix it up. 2 drops of white is going to lighten it a lot, and that was what our base coat was. And actually, I found a picture of the underside of this bird's wings. I'll show you guys my reference photo again in a second. But there's our highlight. For our base, we just had straight up rich leather. Hey there, Inky, and trouble is here. It's a party. Hello, JS Slugger, or J Slugger. Not JS Lugger or J Slugger, one or the other. I will call you J Slugger. And if I am wrong, please correct me. But I am famous for mutilating names. And I have limited brain cells this morning already, I can tell. So I may be creative with my word choices today, guys. Yeah, they're wet blended. If you look back at the last time we worked on this model, you can go to the Reaper VODs or YouTube's Gerard Monster. If you look up Sphinx or you look up her number, 77576, which is actually pretty easy to remember. The last episode that we did, which I think should still be up on Twitch because I think they keep them for 30 days so you can watch the VOD. I did these wings. And so this is just the start. They're actually not finished yet. This is just our what we're starting with. It's based on the African Harrier Hawk. Because it's actually, close geographically to Ms. Sphinx. So, and the bird had just fantastic patterns on its wings. Exactly. Dr. Seuss completely agrees with us, Trouble. David is stuck in the other room on a meeting. He really wanted to stay in bed this morning, but he had a meeting at 9. But yeah, well, they're going to get more fantastical, Karniko, because I am going to take in some of these blue, the cyan blue that we're using on here, and I am going to add little touches of blue pattern on these wings, along with black. Probably I'll nest the blue inside the black, so that it almost peacock-like, right? So that's what we're probably going to do. But anyway, our dark mix, which is all this dark kind of modeling that I did, and the way we got these natural, like, modeled patterns on these wings is we wet blended. We wet blended and stippled them in. So far we are using very, very basic, just base coating, some glazing. You know, we haven't done really a wash, although our base coat is very, it could be considered a heavy wash because you can see some of the wing texture, and I don't mind that at all. I can always go in and make it more solid and leave it more light toward the outsides, which is a lot like what this bird's feathers look like. So I didn't feel like I needed a very solid base coat. Oh, and my webcam is like stupid again. Hold on, guys. Do we really care that the webcam is stupid again? You know what? We're just gonna, like, not have my face. I'm sorry, everyone. No Ann face this morning. If you want me to look at you, then I will, I'll mess around with it. But, I added it to Facecam and I didn't realize it wasn't on DocCam. Yeah, you're just gonna have to deal. I mean, I could sit here and try to adjust it on screen, but that would be ugly, and really what you're here for is the painting. Hi, I'm waving at you. There we go. I will fix it after the stream. Apologies for my silly webcam. So anyway, all of this is really, really basic, and if you just want a good-looking set of wings, just watch last week's VOD on the Sphinx, and you will find out how to make a really good-looking set of wings. Thank you, Reaper John. Yes, there. So, yes, last time. That was, yes. So RTB Pro Tips, and you can note that you can search by the SKU, so it's 77576. It will show you how I did these, step by step. We did both of them, too, so it'll be like a repeat. Like, we'll show you once, then I'll show you again. And obviously, for most of you, this would probably be great. Like, just stop here, you've got great wings, right? But I did say that I was going to go and make these as good as I could make them, like go do a high-quality wing job for Ms. Sphinx. So, yeah, actually, here, let me give you, I only have a phone photo for the underside of the bird, but there's the underside. Isn't that a cool looking bird? So yeah, so the underside of our wings should start with our light color or even lighter. It really should start with our really light color that we used on these little feathers here. And then we should go out to really dark on the outside wingtips, probably even go out to black, and do it that way. But and then use some of our middle browns to do some shading on these underside feathers. So this is fantastic. Hey, Val. I hope you got my video last night. But yeah, so essentially this is the way we're going to work the Sphinx. And on the other side, it won't be quite as round, this round pattern that's on the wing, because these wings are not fully outstretched. So we're mostly going to be worried about these long feathers here being all dark, and then these feathers are going to be a bit light, although I may well put in a darker edge because I kind of like the look of the darker edge. And then, yeah, these soft feathers will be just a little bit darker going out toward that. We can blend that. So, as I always say, but we'll say now again for anybody who wants to paint animals, always have a photo reference. Look for a photo reference. Even if you don't use the exact colors, copy the patterns. So if you're looking to do a blue leopard with purple spots, for gosh sakes, go and look up pictures of leopards because you need to get the spots right, even if they're purple. So here, we're not using these exact colors. We're using much richer browns, but we're going to use the pattern. And so we need to have that reference in front of us. For the back of the wings, it's even more important. Now I'm working from an actual book. And this is how I found our friend, the African Harrier Hawk. Just a beautiful bird with a lot of beautiful colors. I love these spots on the back of the interior wings there. That's really pretty. And these little stripes on the outside. And then you can see those two lighter feathers right here that I blocked in lighter colors. And you can also see some other stuff, right? You can see that each wing has a lighter edge and much lighter tips. So we will be doing that. And then you can see the striping patterns here. And we have a bit of a blend here, but again, the edges tend to catch the light and be lighter. So we have to remember that as we go into Ye Olde Bird. Yay. So I keep my picture open next to me always, or keep it on my phone so that I can refer to it whenever I have a question. Once I've blocked in a lot of this, then I'll just be referring to it in a general sort of way to go, oh yeah, all these feathers need to go a bit lighter, right? Stuff like that. Now what I want to do right now is set up my darks and set up my lights. So I was just mixing my midtone, my first light. I'm going to mix my second light. Let's see here. Our light feather color was bleached linen, which I actually found this morning and have ready. Plus a bit of our shadow color, which we have to mix up yet. So our shadow color is 4 drops rich leather, which we have. 1 drop of russet brown, which is a burnt umbery type of color that I use all the time. It's a really rich chocolatey brown. And then 1 drop of brown liner to really drop it. And what I will likely do is, because I have used brown liner to build this shading color, I will use more brown liner to build the even darker color. Because I do want a color that is close to black, remember, also to use for markings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to invert this. So for here, for our first shadow, I used 4 drops of rich leather, 1 drop of brown liner, and 1 drop of russet. What I'm going to do here is flip that. I'm going to use 4 drops of brown liner, 1 drop of rich leather, 1 drop of russet. Now I'm going to see what color I get, and if it's dark enough, I'm going to go with that. I just want it close to black. And honestly, if it's close, it's going to look like black anyway once I paint it on these wings, because nothing else on the Sphinx is that dark except for her hair. Yeah, no, I started late because Facecam blorfed, and I fixed it on the Facecam screen, but then I did not fix it on the other screen, and I'm not going to stop and fix it in the middle of the stream, Jenna. Just doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, don't worry, Facecam will be back at some point. Also, I'm mixing all of these with 2 drops of water, so it's probably about a 3-to-1. I never really pay attention to how much water I'm adding with my initial mixes, except that I only add like 2 drops usually. So at most, my paint gets thinned down 2-to-1. But really, I'm just looking to thin it a bit so that it flows better, and then I will thin it more as I need it. All right, so now we've got our shadow colors mixed up. And I noted that for my light color here, for my really light color, which will be the underside of the wings color, that I took a brush full of my shadow, my original shadow, and I added bleached linen. And then I added a drop of rich leather. I didn't note a particular ratio, but I know that I almost always use like 4-to-1 and 4-to-2 ratios, so I'm just going to go ahead and drop 4 drops of bleached linen in there. I did notice that I put a dab of rich leather to warm it up, so I'm going to do a dab. For me, a dab is kind of putting it up near the side of the palette and just kind of doing a half drop. Hello, Bob and Julie. Good to see you. Sorry, Facecam is down today, as mentioned. So I'm mixing up colors, Julie. We're going to do wings today. More on the wings on your lovely Sphinx. So while I'm mixing up colors, I'm just leaving Sphinxy out for everybody to look at because she's so pretty. So that gives us, see, this light color, which when we go to do the underside of the wings is going to be our main color. Again, there's our underside of our African Harrier Hawk's wings. So we're going to be doing that very light to very dark. So really we're going to be doing this color and that color with maybe a little bit of this for transitioning. So it's almost a coffee color. This is a very, very pale coffee color. Almost a biscotti. I don't know, maybe not warm enough for that. I do want to add some water, as I did not. Yeah, tap water is fine. I mean, most people overthink this stuff. Tap water is fine as long as you don't have really, really hard water. If you have really, really hard water with a lot of minerals in it, it may make your paint act funky because it's going to alter the pH. pH is very important in paint. So, if you have a really, really, really hard water, I mean, test it. Chances are it's still going to be okay, but you can use just regular spring water, regular tap water. You can use like, if I didn't have, I would still not use distilled probably. I mean, I guess if I airbrushed, I might keep a gallon of distilled around. But it's up to you if you want distilled or spring or just filtered water. Just works fine if you have really crappy city water, like really old metal pipes and stuff. So yeah, I mean, but I only use like this is not in a dropper bottle because I have special water. This is in a dropper bottle because it's easier for me to squeeze out 1 drop, 2 drops. That's it. I could use my brush, and I often still do use my brush to grab a drop of water and throw it into my paint. But more often, I tend to use this. I also have one that has a bit of flow improver added to it. And I just keep those around handy. Sometimes I just use them interchangeably and don't really care. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I mean, I really feel like, yeah, exactly, Jetta. It's different coffee, right? It's coffee-colored Sphinx. She's caffeinated. That's why she's so alert. But that's why the colors all work. So yes, I'm not going to base coat the back of the wings now. Maybe I will at the end of the stream, but I don't want wet paint on the undersides while I'm painting on the tops, so we will not do that. Alrighty, I think we've got all of the colors we need now. Actually, we do need one other highlight. We need to take this beautiful light coffee color and add some white to it. Or let's do linen. We've been using linen for almost everything, so... And it's a yellow white, so it's not going to hurt. It's just not going to give us quite as much punch as pure white. And I want to make... What I'm looking for here is a really pale blondie gold for those wing edges. So essentially, these light parts I need to, that I did in this color that's on my brush. These light parts I need to give even lighter edges to. So... But yeah. So yes, I should put up a little apologies face cam or apologies face cam out today note. But yeah, so there we go. So there's another highlight color. And I like to, when you're doing an animal, it does help to pre-mix all of these and have them ready. Because then you're going to go back and forth and you're going to need that. You're going to need that. Oh, I'm going to need this right now. I'm going to need that. You know, you're going to have a bunch of different colors that you're going to want to use repeatedly as you go over these big, huge wings. So you want them all mixed up and you want enough water in them that they're going to stay good for a while. If you're doing something with your wet palette, then you'll have to, you know, pretty much mix the color as you go. That's what wet palettes do. But yeah, so for here I want to be kind of precise because I'm doing something, you know, that does have patterns, tight patterns to it. And so, hey there, Scrying Eye. No face cam today. I'm just going to keep saying that. We had technical difficulties this morning, and I fixed the big cam, but I did not fix the little cam. So yeah. Pardon me while I switch this sticky note over. All right, now that we have all of our colors mixed for everything, now we can go forward. So, boink. Let's get close. Let's move little Sphinxy. Sphinxy can sit here and watch me paint her wings. I'm going to put her over there. And I'm actually going to move my Sphinxy color notes. Usually I just stick them to a card. Like when I remove a model, guys, I keep the artist, obviously, to remind me that Julie is awesome. But otherwise, I just stick my sticky note with my colors, and sometimes I just wrap it around and I put it wherever I'm putting the model. That way I have both the item number, the name, and the formulas that I'm using. It is a convenient way to do it. All right, wingsies, let's see you. There we are. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is make a note that the outside edges of these darker feathers are actually much darker than they are. So I should start by darkening my outer wing feathers. Pinions, is that what they're called? I think so. RCL. The DM of the Void. Yeah. All right. So one way you could do this, if you wanted to, is you could actually paint a layer of water down. You don't want it actually to be as puddly as I've got it here. I'm going to spread it out. Paint a layer of water down, and then kind of use that as you paint. You grab a little bit of our really dark color and paint that over. And what it kind of does, you have to use a fair amount of paint because you do not want it to separate or go weird on you. So if you see places with a lot more water, either add more paint or kind of wick your excess off. But this kind of allows you to kind of wet blend even just using the one color. Because remember, this first color is actually this, but thinned, is actually this, but thinned a little. So what I'm doing essentially is I'm using water to wet blend in a color. It's almost a watercolor technique, I guess. But, you know, we're using watercolor brushes and our paints are as thin as many watercolors, so there you go. But I want some darker color here, and I want it to kind of blend out. If I decide to do a strong demarcation line, I can put that in. But for now, I just want to really have a way to blend in this darker color with this lighter transition. I'm going to push this back so I can get the full wing on the list, on the thing. There. So if I want to, and if I see a hard line, I could just take some water in my brush. And honestly, I'd wipe off most of the water, so I just have a little bit of damp. You'd want to keep control, and that means you need to control the amount of water on your paintbrush and on your model. So when I do this kind of damp brush technique, it is more of a damp brush. I've got water in my brush, but it's not, I don't sit here with this much water in my brush. I kind of dab it off on the edge until my brush holds a good point again, and that's the amount of water that I will use if I do this technique. Hey, Alba. So essentially, then I'm just going to keep working in my dark color. What this also does is it lets me shade down this wing while still keeping some of the texture here. So, right, I'm trying to keep it in the correct position so you guys can see it. Oop, and I need to fix focus. So it lets me put, if you want more shading and you want it kind of where it's going to pick up the texture in the wings still and not just block it in solidly, you can do this. I'm going to consult my reference photo. I can see some lighter texture on these feathers. And they go, let me see, here, we're going to get this out here. I'm just looking, trying to figure out the stripey pattern. I think it goes kind of like this and like that. I think it just kind of, I'm going to kind of mark a band in here where I want the dark to kind of fade out to the edges and where I want the stripies to start. And I still have water on here, so it's still wet, which is letting me continue my my blendy thing. And I'm not even blending the edges at this point because it's still wet and because I don't mind a little bit of a sharper pattern when I do these bars. I'm just letting it go. If I need to neaten it up or blend it in more, I can do it later. Being positive in a pandemic is good. Being positive in a pandemic is perhaps necessary, I would think. How else are we supposed to get through it? Gotta believe. Gotta believe that things are going to get better and that this year will be an awesome year. Let's get our correct mindset on, people. So if I notice that there's like a really harsh line and I'm not sure that I want that, I will get my brush a little damp and pull it out. Now, I've lost a lot of my water up here, and I'm looking at my bar pattern that I'm trying to do. And I'm trying to judge if I might need to go a little lighter and a little darker. So let me grab a little bit of my lighter paint. And I kind of want to put this in. I'm trying to create kind of lighter and darker markings on these feathers. And it's actually looks very blended on the bird. So I'm not trying to be real precise here, and I may want to blend these in a little bit. But what I want is a bar pattern. Wrong kind of positive? Ah, I see. You were making a pun. I ignored your pun because my brain is not awake enough to register puns yet. So, going back and forth, looking at this, judging what kind of colors I want. Because really, except for the outer parts of the wings, this chocolate color that I started with is what the medium parts should be. So what I should be doing here, kind of creating some lighter stuff. And then putting a space of darker paint in between, and then putting another space of lighter stuff. And we're just going to block it in. Don't worry about if it looks good at this stage. You can always, at this point, you're kind of blocking it in to get your positioning right. And always go back. But you want your positioning right. You want to be able to get these cool little bars of light and dark on the wing. You can always adjust from there. You can come back and blend them in. You can make them lighter or darker. You can highlight them. All the above. Don't worry about it. Let me see the shape. And I'm always looking back at my reference. So essentially what I'm looking at, guys, is these colors here. So they do, if I look at them, they do come out pretty sharp at the edges. See, they almost have a very pale outline, and the pin down the middle of each feather is really pale. So I need to do that. Part of that is going to be light reflection, but part of it we can totally emulate on the bird here. So I am going to grab my light color that I mixed, my really, really, really light kind of creamy color. Looks a little bit like creamy ivory, but it's really our highlight color here mixed with bleached linen. And I am going to do that. I'm going to come down, I'm going to add a little water to it because it's actually not thin enough to come off my brush precisely. Remember, it's actually hard to do thin lines with thick paint. Yeah, it has been hard. This has been a hard period of life. Try to look for positive things. It's easy to dwell on all the crap. I have been struggling also. I had a really bad day for missing Kiri yesterday. Like, really bad. David walks into the room and I'm crying my eyes out kind of bad. So, I feel it. It's hard to stay positive. But, I realized that there was nothing I could do. So, I took a walk. And felt better. Alright, I'm going to kind of look back at those. Yeah, there is a shadow down on one side. Alright. So what I'm seeing is there's this light bar, the pinion, the center stabilizer of the wing, comes down, and then behind that there is actually a pretty dark shadow. So I'm going to just kind of draw this in first. And again, if you mess it up, don't worry. Just go in little strokes like I'm doing here to get it to go. Oh, blue, green, pink. That's what we're doing with Dancing Girl tomorrow, Kerniko. Because remember we did tropical blue, and I said I was probably going to do aqua and pink. Aqua and magenta pink. Yeah, you have all this time and no motivation because everything is just so, you know, it's easy to get overwhelmed. Overwhelmed with nothing, right? It's just emotional overwhelm. This is why when Kiri passed, I took up meditation. I'd been saying I was going to start a meditation practice for a long time. And there have been times I've done it, you know, for a week or two. But I always fall off the train. And this time I swore I was going to stick to it. Because I felt like I was going to need it. Alright, so there we go. So I've got those. Now, when you do these little pins, if you see that you go out of the lines or you get sloppy, just take your really, really dark color here, which has brown liner in it, remember? So it's really good at drawing thin lines. And just kind of come up on the back of that. And I actually am using it to kind of pick out these different wings to different feathers, sorry. And just come up on the back of it and kind of trim down your little light color. You can actually achieve a lot thinner line if you start with a wide one and then, you know, kind of slim it down by coming at it from the opposite direction. That's how you get really, really, really thin lines, rather than trying to draw them that way in the first place. It's a much easier way to get them. Oh, thanks, Aristel. Yeah, we're working on them. I've got my, I'm starting on the patterns on the outside here. I'm just trying to figure them out slowly. We are not going quickly. I'm going to thin my paint so I can get a little bit more of a interesting pattern. I'm going to consult my visual reference. Always use a visual reference when you are painting natural creatures. And as I found when I was looking at my reference, the outer edges of these light bars are really light. So I'm going to use my really, really fine highlight. I'm going to go up and kind of pick a quill on either side. Oh, got too much water. See that puddle that I got? Right away, I'm going to squeeze the water out of my brush, rinse it out, go in, and pull that right off. It's too much water. That's actually me probably using too big of a brush right now. So now that I'm going to do finer stuff, I'm going to switch down to a smaller brush. We'll go with Tiny Brush, our triple lot. Tiny Brush says, "Hi, everybody. I'm getting more play lately." As I always tend to hyper analyze like why I do what I do and what works best for each thing, I have found that Tiny Brush is better for tiny details. I'm going to also take some of the... This is the first point when you're doing these pattern highlights where you can choose, if you want to kind of paint the quills, like paint each of these little lines that comes out from the root of the feather. For the most part, I don't do this. I kind of try to do it selectively. That's why I'm painting with a lot of kind of washes and glazes and kind of, you know, to leave some of the texture intact here for me. So then I can come back and kind of emphasize it as I go. But I don't want to be stuck painting every single little, you know, quill that comes off of these feathers, or every single little bit of feathering. That would just be mind-breaking. I mean, for competition level wings, that's kind of what you have to do. But anything else, you can get very good results not going to those lengths. That said, yes, if you are doing really, really high-end wings, that is what you have to do. Or that is what most people do, I should say. You don't have to do it. But anybody's like national award-winning quality piece that you see that has wings usually has them painted pretty elaborately and every feather highlighted and shaded. We paint them. We paint witches, right? I've got one prepped and primed and ready to paint. And I love it, and I can't wait. It's the Ignis Art Witch. I forget her name. She's in their Slavic Legends line. She's so cool. She's gonna have a glowing potion bottle. She has a basket of like herbs and mushrooms. She's just really awesome. I really like a lot of their pieces. I'm buying a lot. They're in Poland and they're not easy to get, but alrighty. So now looking at this stuff, how's it look? Yeah, there is definitely a change in color. So here what we've got. And again, what I'm depending on very strongly here, guys, is the photo that I have of this bird. So when I look at it, what I'm finding is this central quill here. That's right. These are pinion feathers, but this is the quill. So the quill is light. And these bar markings on the outside of the wing are also light. They're the same color, more or less. They're really, really close to white. So once again, I'm blurfing a little bit, but don't sweat it. You can always trim it. So all the way down, starts up here, pull it out. But what I'm seeing in the picture is that even though these two things are close to the same color, there's definitely a band of dark brown on either side of them to separate them on the wing. That's what the photo is showing me. So I'm going to kind of grab my darker brown, and I am going to kind of almost line down here. Like I said, you can always, if you have a messy quill, you can always take in your darker brown and hit it on either side and trim it up. So that way these feathers are kind of separated from that long support structure. Hello, everybody. Lots of quills. I know, Julie, right? This is your fault, Julie. Your fault. To be fair, you sculpt some of the better wings out there, Julie. At least it's all very clear. Like what I really like about Julie's wings, everybody, just because I'm totally pandering here since she's in the chat, is that they are very clearly sculpted. You can see the layers of feathers, and even if they don't exactly correspond to the particular bird that you are working on, you can usually figure out how to section them out so that you can do a pattern on them. None of them are mucky, and they soften a lot over here. This softer texture on these these feathers that are near the core of the wing is very realistic, so it should enable you to actually copy natural patterns. So there you go, shout out. Even though there's all these dang quills, which I totally do blame Julie for, I also blame her for sculpting really good wings. All right, so let's get all these long things in. And like I said, just go slow. if you don't have great brush control, don't try to draw one straight line. Like, okay, the best of us. Like, there might be artists out there that can draw a perfect straight line or near it. We don't like them. They don't have any friends. We are the types that could not draw a really straight line without going in little dashes. So that's what I'm doing. Little dashes. These are easy, Val. You were here for the first one, weren't you? The start of this is easy. This is where it gets harder. This video. But John linked the first one, the first wing one, which was last week, or it was either last week or the end of the previous week, because holidays and stuff. But this is where the hard part. All of this is just easy. It's just base coating with slightly thinned paint. Anybody can do it. A little bit of wet blending toward the edges. Biggest thing to remember with wet blending is to control the amount of paint on the model. You don't want a ton of paint. If you throw a big pool of paint on there, then everything's going to kind of go together, kind of like I did up here with this marbling effect, this mottled effect. That's what I did. You want a lot of paint if you're going to do this, because you want to dab it and have it flow outwards. But if you're trying to do like lighter edges, like here, where you've got a darker shadow going to a lighter part, or a darker going to a lighter out here, then you actually want less paint, not more. You don't want it to dry right away, but you don't want it like sliding all over the place. It's kind of like, you just need to practice. Like, grab a set of wings that you don't really care about and just practice wet blending like dark to light on each group of feathers. It's really good practice because when you work on a textured surface like this, your wet blending tends to look better because the surface texture is actually interrupting you a little bit, interrupting the eye so that it looks better blended than maybe it is. So it actually lets you get some really cool blends. Textured surfaces are like that. Fur is like that. That's why I always start fur with a wet blend. It's because fur and wings are very, very forgiving. And the texture tends to make your blends look better than they are. And then you go in and, and tighten them up and everything. So there we go. We've got our light pinions. Or light centers of our pinions. And now I probably want to highlight again because I did have to thin this paint to get that thin line down. And I am going to want it a little stronger. So again, I'm going to look at my birdie. And it's mostly stronger toward the top and it fades out toward the bottom. So then what I want to do is I want to come up here and I want to make this top part a little bit stronger. And again, I'm not worried about being neat. In retrospect, you do want to do this part probably before you do like the full patterning on everything. Like I blocked in some of these patterns, but I haven't done anything with them since I blocked them in. You want to get this part done. If you've got a bird that does have lighter spines running down the middle of their feathers, you want to do this now so that you can, if you blorf or you make them too wide and you need to neaten them up, you're not going to interfere with your painting that you've already done on the other parts of the wing. Hello, Achilles. Yeah, I mean, the big thing, Val, if you're going to practice this sort of thing, is make notes on how thin your paint is for each attempt and how much paint you're putting on. Like, I put on a ton of paint and it slid all over the place and I didn't get a very good result, or, I blended okay, but it seems like my lights and darks are really close, so maybe I did have a little bit too much paint, or I didn't put enough paint on and it started to dry, so I didn't get a good blend. And kind of make a note and even take pictures if you need to. But the important thing when you're doing this stuff is to pay attention. You don't have to paint very much every week to get better. You just have to actually pay attention when you do paint. So you have to engage. You have to go, all right, I am going to learn a lot about wet blending wings today. I'm going to pay attention to how much paint I put on, and I'm going to watch my results, and I'm going to use different brushes, and I'm going to see how they differ, right? Things like that. Try to break it down. That said, try to break it down to one thing that you're trying to observe each time. So if you're trying to learn paint consistency, concentrate on that, just that. Don't try to mix up your brushes in the middle of trying to learn paint consistency. It's not going to help. You want to stick to one brush and just concentrate on how thin or how thick it is and how it looks and how it works, how it acts, how it applies. So one thing at a time. A lot of people just try to do everything, like, and I was guilty of this also when I was a beginning painter. I would be like, well, maybe a different brush would help, and then I'd switch it, but then I would totally not get any value out of the time that I was spending trying to figure out paint consistency for layering, because I switched up one of my tenants that I was working with, right? I switched up one consistent thing, a brush, and then I totally lost sight of how the paint was moving because the brush changed that. So do try to do one thing at a time. If you are trying to figure out how paint comes off of different brushes, one, watch my video on it, and two, I believe the video is in question is the one on loading and unloading your brush on my Patreon. I think it might be a $2 video. It's a cheapie. I try to take all of the really valuable topics, guys. I try to make a cheaper level on my Patreon. Not to devalue them, but because I think that, you know, I want more people to have access to the information, so I make it very inexpensive for them to get it. When it's a really important topic that I think is key to loving the hobby more, because you can, you know, see your goals come to fruition, then I'm more likely to put that up for really cheap. And of course, I talk about a lot of this stuff here on the Reaper streams as well. I just don't do it like really structured because I'm also watching you guys chat. All right, so essentially I'm thinning down my little quill things to make them a little bit thinner. Let me get my hand out of the way so you guys can see it. Now I probably will do a glaze if I feel like these are standing out too much. First I'm going to do all the light bars on the feathers. Then if I feel like these are still standing out too much, I'll probably put a glaze over them. Even though they're standing out a lot on the bird, it's all like, then am I, you know, how well is this conveying my idea, right? And I also probably want to do these feathers before I make that decision, because if I'm put really light tones on the edges of these feathers, that's going to make these quills look fine. So it's always oh yeah, none of the other painters cover. Yeah, totally, Saltar. That's because I like micromanage. I microanalyze. Actually, I'm super excited. I am a little behind on the Patreon this week, so I'm going to hit the $2 video today or tomorrow. But I'm really excited about my $2 videos for the next 2 months, guys. I'm going to do a series on the highest coverage paints for each of the primaries and secondaries. So I'm going to do red, oranges, and yellows first. And I'm going to do greens, blues, and purples in the second video next month. And we're going to talk about like what your highest coverage orange is, what your highest coverage red. We're going to talk a little bit about why these paints don't have like really good coverage, and you know, and also maybe I'll throw a trick in there on how to get them a little bit more out of them to get some coverage in your initial coats, to essentially make them cover in just 2 coats. Because 2 thin coats is usually what I aim for with coverage, because I don't like to use very thick paint. But anyway, I'm super excited about that series. So that'll be $2. And I worked on it. I outlined it yesterday, but I didn't have time to film it because I'm catching up on coachings from the December 2020, the month of doom. It will forever go down in my memory as the month of doom because of all the holiday crap and losing Kiri and all that. So yeah, the bird is just a starting point. Right, exactly, Bob and Julie. Yeah, you start with the bird, you try to be as true to the patterns as you can so that you can get that natural look. But then if you ever have to depart from it, you do. Because it's still your model, it's your work of art, and it might differ from the bird. Now I'm futzing with these, I probably shouldn't be futzing. Reds, it's all to do, I'll give you a hint. It's all to do with pigment grinds, guys. And so, yeah, I'm going to do, it probably would be better as a $5. Like, it fits, I thought about it as a $5, but I wanted to do the rest of the Brine Wind colors this month. And also, like I said, this is really useful information about the highest covering MSPs for each of the primary and secondary colors. It's really useful to know, especially when you're starting out. So I wanted to make it accessible. Not that $5 a month is a ton of money, but you know. It lets me do something a little different for $2 tier, which I like. And it actually was directly springing from one of my new patrons. As you guys know, when you join up, I ask you if there's something that you'd like me to cover that I haven't done. And so this directly comes from one of my new patrons, so you can thank them. And I do not have their name handy at hand, but I will try to look it up and thank them in the video. But yeah, so looking forward to that. Yay, okay. That's looking pretty good. That's looking pretty good. So let's... not so much scrying eye. I mean, okay, so it's an order of magnitude bigger, right? It's a rock. You're going to be painting wings. But because it's so deeply sculpted, the techniques that I did here, scrying eye, where I used mostly thinner base coats so that I still get that wing texture, this is going to work great on the rock. You might not even have to do much of a highlight. Plus, honestly, the rock wings are big enough that you could just get yourself a Reaper flat and do some really gentle, like, side brushing highlights on those wings and probably get great results. Like, even if you did the rock, like I did, like, use bigger brushes, for one thing, and even if you did it just like I did this, and then just left it and didn't do anything else to it, the rock would still look fantastic. Maybe just put in a little extra shading here and there, a little extra highlighting on the edges of some feathers, and the rock would look amazing. So don't be overwhelmed by its size. The fact that the texture is actually very deeply sculpted will help you if you thin your paint just a little bit. So definitely watch the original wings video to see how I set this up, because doing this sort of thing on the rock wings would probably work great. Alrighty, so now let's go and let's use our kind of cream color, which is bleached linen plus a dab of rich leather and a little bit of one of our highlights here, our coffee color highlight. This one, the one that looks like coffee and cream. Let's take the cream color, and once again we're kind of looking to accentuate. And you're going to kind of do this like you're layering. So to explain that a little bit better. And by the way, if at any point you can't see the wing texture, just kind of make it up. So when I say that you're going to do this like layering, I mean that you are looking for a darker to lighter blend. So at the very edges of these wings is where you're going to take that light cream color and really make it pop. So that's where you're going to just do a really, really high dot, like high-powered dot of the cream color right at the edge of the wing after you do. See how that creates kind of a blended effect? Once again, this texture is going to help you to get this effect. Let's get this here. I'm going to grab some more of it, and now we're going to, again, I lightened it. Remember, you can see kind of this lighter band going through. But now I'm going to come in and bring that up. So, and I'm going to try to paint the different quills, but again, you know, I didn't have to do this. It looked great to begin with, so feel free to take my starting wing and say that's the level I want, and no way am I gonna paint all those little quill things. You have the power to decide how much work you're gonna do on your wing, folks. I'm just gonna take this one to the nines. Yeah, my face cam decided it wasn't gonna work today. Sorry, disembodied and voice. I am the disembodied voice. I'll fix it by tomorrow. I mean, it's OBS. It's just the Streamlabs. It every once in a while it likes to forget things. It usually wants to forget my mic, so it must think I talk too much, which it's totally correct about. But yeah, today it decided my face cam, and that's sad because my hair is really nice today. You ever have? Yes, it's one of those days where your video cam, where your camera is griefing you because it's actually a good hair day, and it just decided, nope. That's okay. I'll fix it before I stream on my D&D stream this afternoon, guys. So while we're fighting rats, you will have an Ann face. I promise. I almost kind of wish that I had acquired some giant rats from Reaper to paint during this stream. I'm regretting it. Like, the D&D stream is still kind of a work in progress. Like, we're kind of figuring out how it's going to work. But I think in the future, I will actually try to work on a monster that we're fighting as we're fighting the monster. I am a ghost. All right, so again, we go over the feathers a little bit, right, to see how I got all of those. And by the way, if you mess it up, you can just take a little bit of one of your dark browns, either of these, and kind of paint it over the area and just try again. It's just so easy. Don't ever sweat it. Don't get down on yourself. Don't freak out. Don't say, oh my god, this is Ermagerd, this is going to be so much work. Just, just do it. Enjoy it. This is fun. Every little bit of detail that you put on the wings from this point forward, from, you know, like I said, this looks really good as it stands. But every additional bit of detail that you put on now is just going to make it look better. This is the time that I most enjoy about when I'm painting, is I've got all my bases done. Now I can like do the fine detail and like do color patterns and do textures. This is the fun part, guys. Relax and enjoy it. And if you mess up, like I said, don't freak out. It's not a big deal. It's just a mini. And you can fix it. Like, there are definitely points where I would like have a moment of like, oh my God, what did I just do? Like if I drop a miniature and it breaks, okay, then I get a sad. But even then I kind of shrug and pick it up and look at it and assess whether I'm willing or able. Well, I'm always able, but whether I'm willing to do the work to fix it, you know. And often I'll get inspired to fix it after I recover from the shock of dropping it in the first place. Sometimes you have to put it aside a little bit. Like if you really blurf it up, you might have to put it aside a little bit until you get the oomph to fix it. And that is fair. That's absolutely fair. Take all the time you need to recover your oomph. There are some nights where I just do not have the oomph. The oomph commodity is talked about in our household as regards to will Anne cook tonight? Do I have the oomph? Although actually we're making stuffed sole tonight, guys. What do you have? What are you doing? Yeah, it's kind of making the piece come to life, but it's just, I don't know, it's all those little details. I love details. Like my favorite part of the paint job is when I can get micro and do little details and bring all these little details out and give it some personality. So, wow, that's a lot of birdies. Oh, yeah, Everlina. Well, you know, if you look at her and your heart just kind of fails a little bit, just kind of put her gently on a shelf. Like maybe put a little sticky note on her with a little red cross, you know, in the hospital ward. Make her a hospital ward. Give her somewhere nice to sit. And then, you know, kind of let her, you know, kind of chill and rest while you regenerate. And then one day you will look at her and you will go, you know what? I have a lot of energy today and I really want to fix her because I really loved her before I broke her. And then you'll sit down and you will putty and you will glue and you will touch up and you will be happy when she is back. It just takes energy to do those things, though, especially when you put so much creative time into getting them to that point in the first place and then you drop it. It's just like, sometimes you just need, just give yourself a break. Don't make yourself feel like you have to dive right back into it. Usually that just kills your enthusiasm. So acknowledge that it does. Acknowledge that your enthusiasm will come back and then just, you know, work on something else. Something simple and fun is what I recommend after something like that happens. Oh no, internet! Sad Jofrick. Alrighty, let's see here. I have one more feather that I need to do these on. And then I need to tighten stuff up. I kind of want to go in with some shadows and really sharpen some of these edges. I want to make sure I've got some nice rich brown on here. Maybe I'll highlight a little with my lighter coffee color. I want to really bring out some strong patterns. And I do want to darken down also toward the outside edges of these wings, although the outer edge is that warm brown. So I'll keep some of this warm brown. I might even have to apply a highlight to keep it. We'll see it. But so notice that I'm just working gradually, guys. Like none of these textures and stuff is finished, as in, you know, capital F finished. I'm just kind of slowly developing the feathers and the wing pattern to get it to a place where I like it. Yeah, I think if you have birds in a stable environment, probably you're right there, right, Dragon? Birds probably get noisier when there's a lot of upset, is my guess. Just having, I used to have a friend who had cockatiels and parakeets. And I had some experience with conures, and conures I think are as big as I ever encountered as far as parrot family. We didn't have macaws or anything. Among my friends. They all had smaller parrots. There we go. So we're getting our bar colors in there. Stability and good training. Yep. Well, that's just like dogs, right? Good training. Stable environment. I do love my Shiloh Shepherds, but I will admit that I got kind of sidetracked by a smaller breed of dog last night. Don't listen, Shiloh Shepherds. Mostly because of this apartment. But I don't really need... I keep telling myself that I don't need a dog, but I also really, really miss having a dog, so I go back and forth. However, every time I think about having a new puppy and having to take it out, you know, in the middle of the night in this apartment, that pretty much kills whether I want to get another dog right away. I'm like, no, please. It's like, I love puppies, but I love my sleep. And after just going through so much with Kiri, I should enjoy my sleep while it lasts. There will come a day when I decide to sacrifice sleep in the cause of a new puppy, but I am slowly coming around to the idea that it'll be a while. Actually, Pendrick, I was looking at the Australian cattle dog. I kind of like a more aloof dog. Like, Kiri was not like one of those super friendly Shilohs that just kind of, you know, bumbles all over you. I kind of like... Our Shiloh girls tend to be more reserved, and I like that temperament. I don't require my dog to be super friendly to everybody. And I like their intelligence, and I mean, the little bit of hard-headedness they have doesn't bother me. I have at this point, I've got, you know, a decade of experience training troublesome dogs. My ex-husband actually has been taking care, actually when COVID started, he took his sister's 2 corgis, because they had been out of town and they were kind of trapped out of town, during all the stuff. And so he essentially had these corgis for like 2.5 months. And I mean, I've experienced corgis, through other people owning them. And, my general conviction is that they're brats. Very smart. And total brats. And I don't know, I mean, they're cool, but they don't like make me go, you know, yeah, that dog, you know. And I've been looking for that dog for, you know, since I was a little girl. So Shilohs really are that dog for me, but the cattle dog looks kind of cool. Like, looks close to what I look for in a dog, not in a Shiloh-sized package. Yeah, they are total brats, yeah. Yeah, I like Border Collies. I'm really looking... Oh, Papillon. Papillon all the way, Chibi Amy, as far as toy breed. And I do, like I said, I've been in so many dog training clubs, and like, I, you know, did junior showmanship and obedience when I was a kid, and I have to say Pomeranians might be second, although some of them can be real kind of jerks. But it really depends on how you raise them, right? Like, with all dogs, that's always the case. In our dog project, there was a family that had 3 daughters, and all of them had Pomeranians. And those dogs were so freaking well-trained. Like, total little robot dogs. They'd go in the obedience ring and get a 98 out of 100. And I'd just be like, what? Because I had a Shiloh Sheltie. And my Sheltie was much smarter than me. Oh, yeah. Oh, but you got a rescue Malamute. That's great, Time Stitcher. Yay, Malamute. That's, we're using a giant Malamute for our, hopefully our upcoming outcross for Shiloh Shepherds. It's actually a breed that was used in the formation of the Shiloh, but a lot of the genetics were lost over, you know, breeding back toward more shepherdy stuff. So we found a really diverse one, and that's kind of cool. And he's also massive. Much larger. Definitely on the giant Malamute side, not on the normal Malamute side. But yeah, I do like males. I do like males. Very large, though. And I'm really looking for, like, oh, Newfies are cute. Yeah, Papillons are actually listed, when Stanley Cohen did his book, or Corin did his book, The Intelligence of Dogs, he did, like, a bunch of studies, and it was, kind of rating dogs' intelligence on how responsive they were to a command, and how many tries it took them to learn it, and, like, you know, how often they would do the command, the first time they were asked to. And even though there was a lot of criticism leveled at the book, over time, other studies and owner reports, like doing studies just based on owners' responses to questionnaires, have totally, have for more or less backed up his study. So Papillons are, I think, the only toy breed on the top 10 of smartest dog breeds. And I like intelligent dogs. So, hey, thanks for the sub, Cajedos, right? Is Cadejos? 4 months. Thank you. We appreciate it. We're going to have, for those who are new to our stream, by the way, this Friday is an AMA and giveaway. When we do an AMA, you can drop your questions in the An AMA channel of our Discord. And I will, pretty much get through as many as I possibly can, including like demoing if I feel like I can quick during the AMA stream. I get through as many as I can during the stream, and we will do 3 giveaways during the stream. It's the only time that this stream does giveaways. So I have yet to decide what I'm going to give away, although I'm kind of thinking. I'm thinking a bunch. I'll have to touch base with Justin. I thought about giving away some of the models that we've actually been working on, which would be kind of thematic. I don't know if you're listening, Justin. But Reaper John is. But since usually Courtney just tells us, mostly we have stuff in stock, so I think I'll just make a list. But I don't know. I thought about doing a theme too. Maybe I should do feathery things. Maybe we should do the rock, and everybody can go, no. Now, one thing I'm going to do here, guys. For one thing, I need to put some of this light color on the other side over here. I missed my bars down here. I also need to carry the light color over here on the other side of the feathers. It can't be on just one side. Yeah, I mean, you could look at Great Pyrenees instead, Twisted Oma. I mean, the big problem with that, if you need a service dog for support, right, for helping you get up and stuff, you're going to be putting a lot of weight on the dog, and you want to breed with pretty good hips as far as that goes. And I don't know about some of those giant breeds are not don't have a great reputation for that. So do your research. Of course, if you can get an adult dog, that's better than getting a puppy. It's something we get a lot of requests for service dogs in the Shiloh Shepherd community. And what we tell people is if you need a dog like that for physical support is really start with an adult. Most breeders won't sell you a puppy because it's pretty terrible. The problem is that Shilohs look like adults at like 6, 7, 8 months. Like they grow really big. And it's easy to forget that they're still puppies and growing. So I know personally of at least 3 service dog prospects sent out as puppies who were actually sent back to their breeders because the owner started putting weight on them earlier, and the dog essentially it hurt the dog, and the dog started moving away and wouldn't stand for the owner to do it. So do keep that in mind if you want a physical support dog. That getting an adult may be better for you. But yeah, just look around. I'm sure there are lots of good breeds out there for it. Some of Labradors, I saw a 100-pound Labrador at the vet once, and I was like, well, that would be a good service support dog. Right temperament, really stable, it was a great dog. Newfies are sweet and gentle, though, so I don't blame you for wanting a Newfie. What was that? Oh, Spirit Beast or Sphinxy? Ah, Siberians, I see. Yeah, I mean, Time Stitcher, people always think that long-haired dogs are not good in heat, but in reality, they can adapt, and sometimes for short time periods, the double coat actually acts as insulation in the heat. So, like, they do worse if you leave them out, but for short periods of time, they're not bad. Like Leo, we had our big plush Shiloh in Texas in 103 degrees, and he wanted to come back in pretty quick, but it's not like he was super suffering, and if we were grilling out and it was like in the 90s, he was pretty acclimated. So it's not as bad as you think as long as you're not going to leave the dog outdoors all day, which very few people do these days. Especially when if you've got a sociable breed, or you've got even a breed that like is too smart and needs stimulation. You usually don't want to leave them outside, right? Because they'll get into trouble. All right, I'm going to darken the top of the feathers here because I want a lot of contrast. And this is where I'm going to depart a little bit from the actual coloration of the bird. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Joe Frick, that's hard. It's hard for service dog owners, and it's hard for, and for the people who see, like, co-owners or co-workers reacting badly. Paid along with and care package. I don't have time to put that together, Dragon Eye. Good. Yeah, that makes sense, Time Stitcher. Yeah. Yeah, as long as you've got AC for most of the day, the dog is probably like, yay. Good. Well, I'm glad you got to have a Mal, which is, since that's the breed you really wanted. I personally am looking for, I like a lot of people will get Shiloh Shepherds because they like the long coat, but I actually prefer the smooth coat. I want to wash and wear dog, which is why I was looking at the catalog. Yet another reason I was looking at the catalog. If I had to get a smaller dog. They're a medium-sized dog. They're not tiny. There we are. So what I'm doing now is bringing in some darker color right up under these lighter feathers. And what will happen there is then that'll make them stand out. Notice how they stand out pretty well over here, but they're going to stand out even better when I come in with this darker color over here. That also lets me kind of shade down the middle of my quill a little bit more to make that stand out a bit. I can also darken a little bit around here, these kind of chocolatey areas. I'm going to add a little water though, since we've been painting for a while. Yep, you always should ask the owner first. Always. You know what? You should do that. And this is a reality, right? I bet we'd all have seen this, but it's a reality. You should always ask before petting any dog. You should never assume you can just go up. I mean, the dog might be working on socialization. It might be working on, training. It might be, but you should always ask. You should always ask. The dog might not be really confident around people and need work, like a lot of dogs really do better if they're allowed to come to you and you don't come to them, especially if the owner's trying to overcome, say, some innate shyness or just a lack of socialization earlier in a rescue dog, stuff like that. Always ask, always ask. All right, let's come back in. I'm gonna continue with my darkening in there. Yeah, well, I mean, and service dog trainers, there's a need for that. There's more and more people need service dogs. I mean, just judging from the amount of inquiries that we get in Shiloh Shepherd circles, there's a real need for well-trained service dogs. So don't give up on your dream, Jofer. I mean, it takes dedication for sure. And, you have to, really... learning to train dogs well can be... kind of a lifelong pursuit. I mean, it's taken me a long time. I'm a certified temperament tester with my breed. I both puppy and adult. And it has taken me over 10 years to get to the point where I feel like I am confident with assessing temperament and I know training strategies to help various temperaments that may need it. So... never stop learning about dogs is the bottom line. Never stop learning about the different breeds and how they all react differently due to instinctual behaviors, right? There's so much to learn. Yeah, and that's great, Dragon Eye. And my parents always taught me too not to just walk up to a strange dog, right? Yeah, you should always take your cues from the dog. Absolutely. But a lot of people don't speak dog, right? They don't speak dog really well. So, telling the difference between a dog that is smiling, has its tongue, a mouth open and is relaxed, and a dog that is panting because it's stressed, a lot of people can't spot that, right? It takes practice. Right, yeah, not everybody who owns a dog or associates with them learns what to do with them, right? Yeah. A lot of people just have a dog, right? And there's not a lot wrong with that as long as your dog is a polite member of society. Whether you got lucky and just got a really stable temperament dog or, just kind of, put enough work in and your dog ended up okay despite you. I know I've had dogs like that. My Sheltie ended up okay despite me when I was a kid. I was not consistent with training. We all make mistakes. That's the other thing you realize is making one mistake with your dog is not the end of the world either. You may have to work to correct it if it was kind of a traumatic one, but you should never... It's another one of those things that never yell at yourself or your dog. Just reset. Dogs did teach me to be very calm about stuff, to not freak out. Oh no. I'm sorry, Joe Ferk. Yeah, as a shepherd person, I'm totally sad about that. I'm always sad when people have bad experiences with German Shepherds. Even though my breed aren't GSDs and Shilohs are genetically distinct. I mean, if you test them via DNA, they do not come back as German Shepherds. They come back as Shiloh Shepherds. But even so, my original love was of German Shepherds, and so I always feel sad whenever I hear about a dog behaving badly. It just gives the whole breed and everything that looks like it a bad name. There we go. So now we're tightening up our feather pattern a bit. I've got some dark in at the top here. I'm kind of like coming in a little bit more in here. The edges are going to be lighter than the cores. So essentially what I'm doing like here is I'm going to bring in wherever it's not dark next to where another feather overlaps. I'm going to go in and put some dark there. Kind of like lining, except I sometimes extend it a little bit. So we've got these outer feathers looking a lot darker now. Now, as you can see, this is the time-consuming part, right? I did both wings, basic pattern, in one stream. But now we've spent almost a whole stream just on tightening up some of our outer feathers. Yeah, having a dependable recall is for sure. It can be a lifesaver for your dog, too. Right? I was always scared that, because my dogs weren't really trained around a lot of traffic, right? So when I came here to California, I was really scared because Kiri just had no consciousness about cars, right? She'd never been trained about them. So having her having a pretty reliable recall and, you know, etc., that was a big deal for me. So I'm going to extend the dark now. Remember, they've got little chocolatey edges on these dark outer feathers, but most of it is dark. So I'm going to bring that dark color right up against that pale center line, which is really going to make that stand out. Now, one thing I could do here is introduce a bit of my blue. Remember, I was going to introduce some blue as my unnatural color because of Sphinx's hair. So I think I'll do that here. I think I'll choose to make essentially a blue bar in the middle of some of these longer feathers. Oh, well, that's good, Joffer. Well, at least that dog, was like, okay, are you better now? Dogs are so cool. That was a very intuitive dog. That's why I like smart, intuitive breeds. Like, they may take a bit more training and a bit more stimulation and socialization, but alrighty, so we're just darkening in around those centers. You can see the paint's still kind of wet, but you can see how this one is darkened up. Let's grab some of our cyan blue and kind of do a proof of concept on whether I want to do some blue in the middle of this. Yeah. This is the color we're going to be using. One of my go-to blues, 9117. It is the color that we used on Sphinx's hair, so we're going to use it here. I'm going to just get a big blob of it and throw some water in it. And mix it up and get ready to throw it on this wing just to see. And I'm going to put my really dark area around it, so I want it to kind of go out toward the edges like these little white quills did. So I'll lighten it as it goes out. So first we're going to darken in a really dark, and actually maybe I'll use some pure black, because I did use pure black for Sphinx's hair. Yeah, if you want to train service dogs, like if that's always been one of your dreams, Maybe try to apprentice or learn under an existing trainer. Put in some time helping them, learning about stuff. You can always take steps toward your dreams, even little steps, little steps. All right, got some pure black. Decided I wanted a pure black as a background to the blue. And that will let us do bars that are slightly different on these outside parts of the wing. So let us do that. Ah, it's Reaper. It is Reaper. Welcome. We are talking about dogs and wings. And we're about to put some blue on our wings because these are not wings for an actual natural eagle, much as they are painted like a African Harrier hawk. They're actually going to go on Miss Sphinx. So although the colors match her very well right now, they are lacking in her blue tones. So her black fur is highlighted in blue. So I wanted to do that on the wings. So we're going to be doing sections on these outer pinions to do that blue highlight. That's what we're going to be doing. Yeah, Cornico, I used pure black for her hair, and working the blue off of that makes more sense than working it off of brown. So that is essentially, since I've already utilized it that way, that's what I'm going to do. But yes, it is a rarity that I use pure black. Normally, I am not really in favor of it. All right, so let's try to do a band. Maybe I'll take it up pretty long here. And take it on the other side. So we're departing from our photo reference now, but we're going to keep using the kind of pattern that we've been using. So even though we're departing and making a totally different, separate, darker area on the outside of this feather and its friends, if this works, we will, we're still kind of keeping in the pattern that the natural bird would have. So if you're going to depart from your photo reference, just try to keep it consistent with what you've already done. Gonna make sure this is nice and solid. Lost a little bit of my white line there. Oh, I almost never use it. I like to mix my own blacks, or I just don't like that it's really dead, so I tend to use really dark colors instead of black. Oh yeah, dogs are smarter than people give them credit for, Twistedoma. Personal, Oh, good, Shiza. Thanks. I am glad because I made the paint line. So I count that as a high compliment. Thank you very much. I'm really glad you like the paint. I also like my paint. So I'm just gonna, I blorfed this little guy, guys. So I'm gonna just bring in my my quill a little bit stronger here. There we go. Fixed it. Now let's do our blue. Now I could do this two ways. I could underpaint with white if I wanted it to really pop, but I think I'm gonna start with my cyan because it's I don't care if it's a little dark out the gate. And I'm not going to go all the way up to my black. I'm going to leave the black as bands on either side of my blue. If I go a little far, then I'll just extend my black. So we'll try doing this much. And again, I probably shouldn't have touched up my white because I'm going to need to touch it up again before I'm done with this. The sad truth. All right. Blue. Let me get my black again and just make sure that I've got a nice tight black band around the outside of these. Make sure you're painting it consistent with the quills. Don't go kind of across the quills. Try to make sure that all of one of these little quill things is pretty solid. If you want to, 1 second, let me reset Justin in my ear. He's falling out. Okay. If you want to, you can take this black and you can pull it a little bit up the wing too. So it's not just springing out of nowhere. You can kind of bring a little bit of a black line up the wing to kind of blend it in. There we are. More or less. Okay. This actually is showing up brighter on the camera than it is in person, which happens sometimes. I'm going to put one more layer because to my eyes, this isn't quite solid yet. So I'm going to put one more layer of blue. 1 second while I get it all on my brush. Get my brush loaded. Oh, okay. Yeah. Goodbye, Twisted Oma. Yeah, we're almost done. I'm just going to highlight the edges of these little blue quills, and we're going to take a look at it and see if we like it. Have a great day. We will see you. I'm doing my D&D stream later, so I'll see some of you online then. Oh, hey, Justin, who's Proctor interviewing today on Crow's Nest?
Hold on, let me see. Let me double check the email.
Yeah. That's okay. I'm going to grab some white. I want to mix a little bit lighter blue and do it just like I did the white up here. There's no crow's nest today? Oh, Reaper John says no crow's nest.
Oh, that's right. My email is for next Tuesday. That's correct. There is no crow's nest.
None of you have any excuse to not attend my D&D stream.
And I don't know if I should tell you guys who's going to be on next Tuesday. That might spoil it.
Is it special? Is it special?
I'll say no more.
Okay. Justin firmly seals his lips. Oh, yeah, work thing. That happens. Work things do happen. Alrighty. Let us take our slightly lighter blue. So what I did is I created, there we go. I made a triad. I made a lighter blue and then a blue white with our cyan blue. And we will use this to get some highlights on here. And let me get this on focus on camera. Once again, when you're to this level of highlighting, do try to hit the quills. But I mean, if you don't quite get them, that's fine. As long as you've got, as long as it looks orderly and looks cool. See, we're bringing out that pattern then. And then we'll do it on the other side. And if you accidentally paint over two with one line, like I said, don't sweat it. As long as it looks good, go for it. Stay more or less on them if you can. So that really makes that come out. Now, what that tells me, though, is that on the outer part of this feather, I probably need to bring up texture more. Because that looks great, but now the rest of the feather looks blah. So what I think I'm going to do, guys, actually, now just deciding off the top of my head, is I'm actually going to depart from the color of the bird. I'm going to make this outer part solid black, and I'm going to highlight it again with these blues to tie these bits together. So let's do that. Let's try that and see what that works. This is my test feather. So when you're doing kind of a proof of concept like this, just pick one feather that's big and has enough room for you to kind of check it. Usually it'll be your longest flight feather. Sounds like Proctor's okay, just got work.
Yeah, he says work stuff today.
That happens.
I believe he got double booked for meetings, so he's actually in meetings all afternoon.
Oh, bummer. I'm sure he would rather be doing Crow's Nest. I'm also going to take some of this.
I would have to agree with you, Ann.
I'm going to take some of my lighter blue guys and kind of highlight the black right above the wing, the blue band. Not going to do like all blue, but just that lighter blue. And I'm going to do the same down here. And this is me just playing. Like, honestly, play. Have fun. Think about how you can make these feathers look really cool. Try ideas. If this fails, what have I done? I've wasted maybe 5 minutes, and I can just paint over it in black or dark brown, and I'll be fine. But if I do this and I decide that I really like it, then that 5 minutes investment was a really good investment. So never be afraid to play around. Let's see here. And once again, I'm not going to do the whole feather in blue at this point. I am merely doing just the little edges there. about halfway up the feather. And then I'm going to take my blue white and do the very edges to really make them pop. And see if I like it. So we've got that going on. I painted over a couple of these little quills, you know, not with the best brush strokes, but that's all right. It's okay. And now I'm going to grab the really, really pale blue-white, and I'm going to just hit a little dot at the edge of all these. And this is like going way, way, way elaborate with it, right? Tiny little details. So, but that little detail really makes the edge kind of flare out. Also, it's painting tiny details, so it makes me like feel all zen and in the zone. There we go. There. So that makes that feather really, really stand out. So I like it, and I'll probably repeat it on all the other feathers because I like it. What I may need to do to make this whole thing look good, though, is I may be ready. I may need to take kind of my light coffee color and bring up some of these things, like the brown parts of the wing may need to get a little lighter now, which we're already kind of planning on doing up here and everything, but I may need to bring it in a little bit here, just hitting the edges mostly. And I do like to lay the wing flat when I'm doing this kind of thing. I do not like to glue the wing on. This is why I don't like to glue wings on before they're done. This way I can put it flat on my paper, and I can just kind of paint it all in one place. I could also just stick it down on top of a block and paint it on that. But this is fine. So yeah, so what we'll probably do is we'll repeat this pattern on the rest of these long feathers. There's also these little pale feathers also have kind of a center spot on them that's dark. And I think I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do a black and blue inside of it. So I think I'm going to do that. I think I'll do that right now. They kind of have a spot on their outer edge. And I'm going to make it kind of taper with these quills. Probably take it right up against there. It does have light around it. I have to kind of glance over there, okay? And I want to take it right up against that quill and kind of fill it in so it's got the same sort of thing going on there. All right, so little black spots, and then what I would do is fill those in with blue and kind of that pattern. So then it'll run like from bars of blue here to 2 spots of blue, and then we'll be back to brown for the interior of the wing. The interior of the wing is a really rich brown. Now, another thing we're doing with this is we're going complementary colors, because this color is kind of an orangey brown, and then we've got blue. So we're essentially using a complementary color scheme on the Sphinx. Always remember that browns are usually oranges. Sometimes they're reds, sometimes they're yellows, but most often they're oranges. And I have to wait for that to dry. It's 5 after 11, so we can start looking for a raid. Justin. All right, now I'm going to go and get these. You do that while I'm blocking out some black on these guys. So now that I know the whole end of the feather is going to be black, I can go back and kind of block in some of these guys.
Ooh, okay, I got a raid for us.
Who is it?
I think we're going to raid Dwarven Forge.
Oh,
live.
Neat.
They're live right now. So.
Super. Yay. Yeah, let's go to the raid Dwarven Forge. Thanks for showing up, everybody. So today we started with our base wing, right? Base wing from last time. And then we worked on blocking in some patterns on it to make it look really pretty. Next time we'll work on more feather highlighting, and we'll probably move a little faster since I was setting out all of this stuff to show you kind of how to do it. So we'll probably move a little faster, get the rest of this wing highlighted, and then maybe we'll take a break and work on the interior of a wing before we do the other guy. To give it kind of a break so that different people will be able to see the next wing episode. Yeah, that's what we're doing. I am streaming later on my channel, twitch.tv/paintingbig. My Patreon, for those who are interested, is patreon.com/paintingbig. And yeah, so have fun, and thank you for tuning in. I'll fix my face cam by next time, I promise. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. Talk to you tomorrow.